For today's episode of Desk the Data Center, we'll be doing a real fast one. We're converting our WinServe Windows Server 2022 box into a domain controller. So stay tuned. It's real easy, real simple, and we'll get running in no time flat. All right, so here is our Windows Server 2022 box. We are remote connected through MOBA Xterm, which again, I love. So we're going to do something real super simple. We're going to turn this into a domain controller. First thing we got to do is give it a second to get itself sorted. We're going to click Add Roles and Features. I'm going to leave this alone. Hit Next. We're going role-based, feature-based installation. That's our server, WinServe 1. And then we are just going to select Active Directory Domain Services. We're going to tell it to add all those features because we need them. We're not going to do DHCP, but I'm kind of surprised it doesn't turn on DNS. So we're going to go ahead and turn on DNS with it because we really want DNS. We won't be doing any of these other things right now. We don't need those. Let's review if we need any other choices. And no, we're going to hit Next. For features, no changes here. Next. Active Directory stores information about users, computers, and other devices. So for folks that don't know, Active Directory is kind of started as a directory service. Like literally you type in a person's name, you get their office number, their location in your building, simple stuff like that. It then grew into a identity management system. So usernames and passwords, DNS got added in, DHCP can be added in, but you want to do that separate. You can also file shares, group policy objects, all sorts of stuff where you can manipulate the servers as much as you can anything else. So we'll hit Next here. We're doing the DNS. Next here. We are going to tell it to, we don't need to tell it anything right now. We're going to hit Install. And then this is going to install the features needed for Active Directory Domain Services. We'll wait a couple of minutes and just kind of let it churn through. All right, that is finished. We can hit close here. And then we should have a little button up here that says promote to a domain controller. Yep. We click that. Then it's going to say, hey, what do you want to do? Well, we're going to add a new forest. And that root domain is going to be sysadmin.sean.yt. So obviously that's not a real domain, but this is an internal domain. So think of it like this. If you are going to manage internal and external domains, you really don't want your external domain, or you really don't want your internal domain pointing to the public. It's fine if you want to, but it seems like it adds a lot of headaches. It's much easier to have an internal domain for everything that's like user logins, systems that you want to keep away from the internet for any given reason, and things of that nature as your internal domain. And then maybe we'll make a sysadminsean.com for an external domain later. So we hit Next here. It's going to ask us about our functional level. It looks like 2016 is the highest functional level, so we're going to leave that. This is going to be our global catalog. This is going to be a DNS server. This is not going to be a read-only domain controller. Now, I think a read-only domain controller kind of sounds neat if you have to put it somewhere where you don't feel like you can safely secure a domain controller completely. But I'm told a lot of features are missing from read-only domain controllers. So I don't know. I haven't got to test it, but I want to. So we're going to set a recovery password. And we're going to set that to something I will remember, which honestly, you guys probably all know by now as well. DNS options, we're not going to worry about delegation. So next, the net BIOS name. It's doing that right now. It should end up being, that's really weird. I don't want that to be the net BIOS name. I want this to be, maybe I do want that to be the net BIOS name. We're going to leave it. We're going to trust in Windows. Let's see what they say. I'm not going to touch anything here. That's all going to stay standard. Going to do reviews. You can view the script if you want to, which is kind of cool to automate additional installations. Thanks Windows for adding that in, but we're going to hit Next. As long as all the prereqs are cool, we can click Install. prereqs are good. Let's hit install. All right, the system needs a reboot, and then we'll be back in with Active Directory. And there it goes. All right, we're back logged into the system. Let's take a look at something I'm kind of curious about. I think it actually renamed the computer. Not a big deal, but it's going to look weird as far as the domain's concerned. No, it did not rename it. Very cool. winserve1.sysadminshawn.yt YouTube. Ha ha ha. So there we go. We have our domain, and the first thing we need to do is make some users. Really just a user. So one thing you want to think about is you don't want to use the local admin account. We really need to disable that soon. But we're going to need to make users in the domain. And as you can see, we've got quite a few configuration things here. We have a domain admin section. We have all this cool stuff. Our domain controller will be in here. Computers will go in here as they're spun up, and users will go in here. Now, you don't really just want to put all of your users in here. Most of the time, what I've seen, and I kind of don't like it either, is they'll start at this top level, and then they'll make what's called an organizational unit, which is really just a folder. And then they'll call it the same thing as the domain, and then they'll start putting stuff under that folder. I'm not exactly sure why that is done. I'm not planning on doing it. For right now, we're just going to use our users. We're going to get a new user, first name. There we go. And our login is going to be ADM sysadmin, because that makes a lot of sense. Password, we're going to set a password for the account. User must change. I don't want to do that. Password never expires. Really, you shouldn't set this. But I am, because again, this domain isn't really going to be very accessible. And you hit finish, and then you add them to domain admins. So now we have made our first domain administrator. And then we remove this local administrator account from domain admins. And then a lot of times you're going to make a backdoor account, another. So let's do that. New user. It's going to be funny. So we call it like John Smith. That's a pretty average name. And their user account's going to be totally not a domain. No. You name it something that doesn't look like it would be a domain admin. So usually like jsmith22, right? You give it a super long password. You don't tell it to log in. The user can't change its password. Its password never expires. You hit next. Password's not matched. I didn't type it in right. There we go. Finish. You add that to my domain admins. Is old John Smith. He doesn't sound like a domain admin. That's our super secret, totally super duper secret account. And then you disable this account. That way this baseline account that says admin on it doesn't stand out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do some DNS. That should load up in here in just a moment. There it is. So here is our DNS system. This is our DNS server, which is also our domain controller. And here is our forward zone. And there's winserve1. We're going to add an A record. So an A record is simply a computer name that you're going to tie to your domain using an IP address. So you don't have to remember it. And we're going to do, let's see. What is it called? Close that. Lin SRV1. Okay. There we go. Lin SRV1.sys7. And then we put in the IP address of that system. And I don't know if there's a reverse zone made yet. Let's see if there is. Yeah, there is not a reverse zone yet. I like reverse zones. I don't know why it doesn't make one. Primary zone. All DNS servers. Yep. I think if you type it in forward, yeah, it does it the right way. then we'll add another reverse zone for the other network range. You may be saying, why make a reverse zone? Trust me, you need reverse zones for quite a lot of things these days. So it really doesn't hurt to have them. And then we'll actually add one. This is some future proofing. For adding a vCenter, you need a reverse zone in VMware for sure. And that's really the most important ones. So now if we go in here and go to properties, yeah, update associated pointer PTR record. These are things that can change it. They can't change it. Hit OK. And I think, yeah, we won't have anything in there yet. So let's nuke this A record. Delete. And let's re-add an A record. And do be careful about typing in your names. And there we go. That's done. And then if we go in here and hit refresh, there we go. There is our reverse record for LinServ1. So we've set up a domain controller. It's super simple to do. Windows pretty much handles all of the work for you. And then really the only stuff you have to do is start adding in your users and your computers and bind things to the domain. And you're ready to go. Your domain is now one of your DNS servers. So it manages all of your internal domain DNS queries. And then it goes out to the internet for anything you don't have. So if you need to query something at google.com and you've only got your servers pointed to your Windows domain controller, well, it's going to go out to Google. It's going to do its DNS lookup and it's going to send the information back to the computer. Or the router will handle that, depending on how your enterprise is set up. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Nice, simple, super easy. Barely an inconvenience, as they say in certain other YouTube channels. I hope you liked the video. I hope you want to give it a thumbs up and you want to subscribe and you want to keep track of everything we're doing here in the Desk to Data Center series. And I hope to see you in the next one. So have a good day.